have Chris Calhoun with me now. He's the CEO of Cytori Therapeutics. Chris, thank you very much for joining us.
Good, thank you.
I guess we can start off with just a very brief overview of Cytori Therapeutics and what you guys are developing.
Great, good morning. Well, the field of regenerative medicine is just beginning, and this whole new age has begun. But the key limitation for cell-based regenerative medicine is that access to cells doesn't exist anywhere in the world. And we've effectively solved that problem by creating a point-of-care system that enables a doctor to take a small amount of the patient's own tissue, fat tissue, run it through our device, and within an hour, in the context of the same surgical procedure, put those cells right back into the same patient. And they're treating a variety of things, everything from heart disease to breast reconstruction after cancer.
Mm-hmm. So your solution system is what you were just mentioning, is a point of care in real time processing of adipose tissue for adult stem cells for reuse. I guess it's already being used in multiple applications. Let's start with the breast augmentation and reconstruction. What countries is this being used in currently, and what kind of results are these physicians getting?
One of the first markets for us, and the place we're applying this technology initially, is for reconstructing breasts after breast cancer. So the predominant way that women are treated now with breast cancer is what they call partial mastectomy. So instead of a full mastectomy where they remove the whole breast, they only remove the area of the tumor and some margin, thereby preserving as much of the native tissue as possible. So these women, although cured of cancer, which is the primary objective, go home with this deformity that doesn't seem, let's say, maybe could be considered really cosmetic, but it's more than that, because every day they wake up, they look in the mirror, they're reminded of having cancer, think about what clothes they wear and where they go. So there's a very significant psychological impact. Well, our technology enables a patient to go in a single treatment with her own tissue, her own cells, get reconstructed and back to a very normal life, and then where they don't even have to think about having cancer anymore. Mm-hmm. The real mechanism here is graft survival, or taking tissue that's injured from an ischemic event, heart attack or an injury, and preserving that tissue and bringing it back to life, not growing new tissue necessarily. So the mechanism of these variety of things are where we're seeing great graft survival, and we're seeing significant improvements in function.
Let's look at other applications other than breast reconstruction, augmentation. Radiation necrosis. I've seen some pictures and some data of, this is horribly disfiguring in many cases. You're able to close some of these wounds.
Yeah, this wound care is a particularly interesting area for us. We've seen patients with wounds that have been exposed for years, in one case up to 30 years, and with all the standard treatments of care, nothing worked. But with a single treatment of these cells, we're able to close that in weeks. So one treatment, you get complete closure of these progressive wounds. And we've done fistulas, Crohn's-related fistulas, radiation necrosis, and the results are always complete closure. The most significant patient we've treated was actually a 90-year-old woman with a radiation injury, 4-year exposed wound. This was likely going to lead to her death because of infection. We're in one treatment, 20 weeks later, this healed the scar is phenomenal, complete healing. It's remarkable.
And another use, you've been finding urinary incontinence with this actual degradation of the muscle inside. You've seen recent efficacious use of your cells there as well.
Yeah, it's a market urinary incontinence is a market that's not often talked about. It's in Japan, for example, half the women over age 50 have urinary incontinence. Men that have radical prostatectomies often end up with incontinence, but it's kind of an embarrassing condition, and it's not often either pursued by the patient, or it's not often talked about, certainly not in social circles. So we don't really hear much about it. It's a huge, huge challenge. And so what we're able to do, and particularly we're again starting with the most challenging patients, that is patients that have had cancer, surgery, likely radiation, and they've got this incontinent problem. They go in a single treatment, have the tissue removed, and then through a small endoscope, they can deliver these cells, rebulk the sphincter. The graft is persistent, so it's the same mechanisms we're seeing in the breast and soft tissue around the other parts of the body, and they go home continent. And it's a small group that's been studied so far, but it's growing, and it's incredibly exciting.
I guess, is there anything that we haven't covered to this point that you think is important to note at this time?
I think that, as we captured earlier, the healthcare is changing, and I'm not talking about the Obama plan. I'm talking about regenerative medicine. Cell therapy is now beginning to affect patients' lives. We're leading the charge, and I think as you look around the world, we have the real practical business model. Using the patient's own tissue, so you're not getting it from animals or some other person or killing embryos. You're getting your own tissue, you're getting your own cells. They're not manipulated, they're not cultured, they're not grown. That's going to bring in other risks and things that we don't want to bring in. And finally, it's at the point of care. The doctor does it in his workflow or her workflow, and it's affordable.
Well, Chris, thank you very much. If you want more information on Cytori Therapeutics, they trade on the NASDAQ under the symbol CYTX. You can also see more information at OneMedPlace.com and also at Cytori's website, CytoriTX.com.